What I realized is oftentimes causes we donate to have a very little impact on what we think we're supporting. I always thought there's like a better way to make an impact. And someone who loved business, I was like, why not use business as like the catalyst to really make an impact or a change in a cause you really believe in? One of the most depressing moments, I would say, where it just felt like everything you worked for, everything you put your time, energy in, so easy to find your identity in what you do and not who you are in Christ.
You get hit from left field, you adjust, you pivot, you adapt. But it like makes you so resilient. Like you become supremely confident in your ability to just figure things out. And then once you have that confidence, like anything can come at you and you just figure it out. You're live, Anton. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing well, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be chatting with you. So we got connected. One of our mutual friends, she's been sending me some awesome podcast guests. She sent me your information. All right, let's get this guy on the show for sure. Because you got a business that you built around a passion that's making an impact, and it's about coffee as well. We all like coffee. So you're hitting all the top tier elements, man.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So how did it get started? First of all, I like hearing the origin story of businesses, of brands. Like what was the aha origin story moment?
Yeah. So, for me, I've always had a passion about entrepreneurship, business. And for me, I've been working before I started 7 Wings Coffee in political fundraising. So I kind of had this background in very mission-driven things, raising money for conservative nonprofits, faith-based nonprofits. And I love that. But what I realized is oftentimes causes we donate to have a very little impact on what we think we're supporting. So, from that experience of, raising money for a lot of great causes, I always thought there's like a better way to make an impact. And someone who loved business, I was like, why not use business as like the catalyst to really make an impact or a change in a cause you really believe in? And so during, it was fall of 2021. It was, right after COVID, there was a lot of, I think, shift in the economy at the time too. So it was a really good time where people were very aware of brands that were supporting causes they didn't personally believe in. I don't know if you remember this, Robert, but the big Target, backlash where, millions of consumers were upset about the political stance these corporations were taking. And really, a lot of people wanted to find alternative brands or products they believe in that also support their values. So it was all during that time. I was very passionate and wanted to see how I could use business to support the pro-life movement. So I got to visit a pregnancy care center, which are the hands and feet of the pro-life movement years ago, and it left a big impression upon my heart. And it's amazing what they do. So a pregnancy care center, they support vulnerable women and children, moms in the community, truly to help provide resources so moms can choose life for their baby. So I got to see that firsthand years ago. And for years, that was always a passion of mine, supporting the pro-life movement. And so when I was working in political fundraising, thinking about business and just seeing, consumers wanting to switch products to things they believed in, I don't know what it was. I'll call it a God moment though, but I literally Googled pro-life coffee, just the idea of like, people love coffee. It's a great way to share a story, come around a mission, to really buy into a certain cause. So I Googled it, nothing came up, and it was a light bulb moment right then and there. It was, picked up the phone, called my wife. I said, hey, I have this idea for a pro-life coffee company. What do you think? She paused and was like, we just got married 2 weeks ago. What are we doing starting a company? But she definitely came around board and helped me come up with a name. But yeah, I literally started 7 Wings Coffee 2 weeks after I got married, with the idea of giving back to support local pregnancy resource centers, to be, to take a stand as a company in the marketplace for certain values that are often overlooked. And that was kind of the genesis of 7 Wings Coffee. And for us, it was, how do we do that? It's by giving back a portion of every proceed. So we donate back 10% of every sale. It's a huge portion of our profits. And that was kind of the genesis of it. And it started right there, just right after I got married. And that was just over 4 years ago. And I have not stopped since.
I love it, man. What was the driving factor for you wanting to go down the pro-life path to begin with? Of all the different reputable causes to support, what was that one? Why was that one the one that stuck with you?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I got to visit a pregnancy resource center years ago. This was right after college in 2019, and it left this huge impression upon my heart. I didn't really know what it was or what they do, um, but it's funny when you actually dive into certain missions and charities. The pro-life cause, the more you look at it, the more you realize how of an honorable cause and in need of support it is. When you What they end up doing is oftentimes relying on volunteers, a handful of staff that are often underpaid, and they're serving the most important role in the community, which is providing for pregnant moms who need help. So that's really what always stuck with me, and I wanted to support that through coffee. And another thing is pregnancy care centers and the pro-life movement specifically, they operate on a very local level. So I love this idea of donating locally. So the bigger impact you have in your community, the better. It's awesome that there's national organizations for a lot of different charities or causes, but giving money back to a local level, I think, has the biggest impact. Right? It's getting into the community, not going to some large organization where money kind of trickles down often. So for us, giving back to local pregnancy resource centers. Was the mission, and it's why I was super passionate about it, because I got to see a local center years ago, and yeah, it was super small. It was very underfunded. It was understaffed, but they have these incredible stories of moms coming through their doors, and they are literally helping provide for them, provide for their future families, and change the trajectory of lives. So you see this incredible mission, you see this incredible impact, but this need, there's a huge gap with support for these organizations. So that's why we, really honed in on supporting pro-life groups. And I'll just throw a quick fact out there. Less than 0.2% of all charitable donations ends up in the hands of a pro-life organization. So when you think about organizations that need funding the most, have the most righteous cause, in my opinion, supporting, vulnerable mothers who are facing unplanned pregnancies. That's got to be pretty high on the list, in my opinion. But yet those organizations receive less than half a percent of all charitable donations. So there's a gap there, and we seek to help fill that.
I love it, man. What made you find yourself at the Pregnancy Resource Center to begin with? Like, was that just a random charitable organization that you volunteered at, or like was that something that you had interest in before ever going there?
Yeah, it was one of those times in my life where I I look back upon and realizing how pivotal it was, but it was the summer after I graduated college. Like, full transparency, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was still finishing up. I played college golf, so my whole life was dedicated to athletics. I couldn't pursue that professionally. I graduated with very little real world experience because all I cared about was, golf and my sport, thinking that was the only thing in my life. But soon you quickly learn after college, the music stops and you got to get into the real world. I didn't know what I wanted to do after I graduated, and really just trying to discern God's will for my life. I took like the summer off, in the sense I just worked, odd jobs, and I interned at my church. There was an opportunity to intern at my church back home in Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the things we did was you get plugged into the impact they're doing in their community. So one of the things they work with was the local pregnancy resource center. So part of the internship was going there, seeing what they do, how we can help and support them. And yeah, that's what really resonated, with me. And that's how I ended up, getting connected to my first, pregnancy resource center. Um, it was definitely an eye-opening experience, and I look back upon that like short 3 months of my life, and you see kind of God's hand when you look back. You can't tell in the moment, but you look back, it's like, oh wow, God put that in my life so I can understand the importance of the pro-life movement. And oh gosh, that's 6 years ago. Here I am today, and we get to support over 1,000 pro-life pregnancy care centers through 7 Weeks Coffee.
Super cool, man. Were you raised in like a church-based Christian home, or like how did that catalyst come to be?
Yeah, I've had great parents, and lucky enough to be raised in a Christian home. And always, it's one of those things. You grow up with a certain worldview, but you have to one day step into that yourself. And so I always, believed, just specifically in the pro-life, believed I was pro-life, believed that life begins at conception, believed it's abortion is, the is essentially taking and killing the innocent life, which is always wrong. But you don't know what that means. So until you actually start investigating yourself, understanding what actually happens, who the people that are helping support women, what's the, the issues what women face and why they consider abortion. And so all that, I grew up in a Christian home, but you have to at some point step into that yourself of what you believe and why you believe it. So a lot of that did happen over that summer, like I mentioned. But luckily, I'm grateful for just having parents that always instilled those values in me at an early age.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were involved in like political fundraising before you started the business,
Yeah.
something like that.
So yeah, I mean, kind of backing up and starting from when I graduated college, had that internship, got to see what a pregnancy care center was. It really like solidified my desire to support the pro-life movement, not knowing how I would do that one day. Lo and behold, through coffee. But after that, I moved to DC because I just wanted to get involved politically, kind of like this idea of bringing biblical principles to government, like to Washington. So very motivated to come to DC, quote unquote, try to make a difference, get involved. And it was a great experience. I got to work for a couple of great organizations, and I ended up learning digital fundraising and raising money for a handful of candidates and PACs, through the 2020 election, which was a wild time. And I had all that, time to like learn, I'd say, business and also fundraising, and just kind of how the industry works, which ultimately I think prepared me for Seven Leaves Coffee, because a lot of what we do is, instead of donating to a candidate or a PAC or to a cause, you're buying a bag of coffee to make the very same impact. So it's funny how those 2 years kind of working in fundraising really did prepare me for Seven Leaves Coffee. It was a great learning experience, and I think what's been helpful and was getting Seven Leaves Coffee started.
Was there a lot of pushback, or was it pretty receptive in DC when it comes to like biblical underpinnings to political, governmental regulations? Like, were they receptive to that?
It's funny. When I first moved here, I thought I'm conservative. I thought just because if you're conservative, you align with a biblical worldview, and that's not always the case. It's much more of a side thought, I would say. And what's sad is our founders really thought and sought to put faith at the center of our government, at the center of politicians, at the center of commerce, and of how politics should work, because it's such a guiding factor in righteous decisions, in promoting virtue. And that has really been stripped out of the entire political ecosystem on the right and the left. Obviously, I'd say more people on the right support a biblical worldview, but it's not as common as you would think. So yeah, that it's sad in a sense, because it's such an important part, I think, to fixing the problems that we have, especially in politics, is having faith be a central key player in that.
Do you feel like that will continue to decline, or do you think there's anything on the horizon that kind of shifts that tide the opposite direction?
I want to be an optimist with it, but the current state, I would say there's not clear signs that the institutions that run our country or make our laws are moving towards a biblical worldview. Now, there's definitely great politicians that try to promote that and really advance that, but it's limited in the sense that politics today is such about the quick talking points and trying to just grab power or authority as quickly as possible, and have this there's such a uniparty feel to Washington, where we argue about all these fringe issues, but there's the most important things that affect our day-to-day lives. There's a very large overlap between Republicans and Democrats agreeing on, whether foreign policy, economic policy, and all the time, faith and biblical values are always pushed to the side. It's been slowly being eroded from our country, which I think is a huge part of our problem today. The political divide, I think, has a lot to do with the abandonment of faith.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, man. I feel like having moved to DC to make an impact,
Yeah.
then kind of hitting a wall in some regards with
100%.
regulation, it's like where can you make a grassroots movement from a capitalistic standpoint using a business that makes an impact, and like doing that is super awesome, man. So you set out to make 7 weeks coffee, and where's the name come from?
Okay, so this is a great story. So when I called my wife and I said I got this idea for a pro-life coffee company, and she's like totally taken back. Like I said, it was literally 2 weeks after we got married. I'm telling her I want to start a company. The first question she asked me was, "So what are you going to call it?" And I said, "I have no idea yet." Um, and then she asked me the inspiring question. She's like, "Oh, don't sometimes, moms who are expecting will say like my little bean or like something around like in a pregnancy term." And so she's like, "When is a baby the size of a coffee bean?" I don't know. I look it up. It's 7 weeks. A baby the size of a coffee bean. It's the same time a heartbeat's detected on ultrasound. And so I was like, boom, that is the name and mission. 7 Weeks Coffee, support pregnancy care centers and ultrasound services so moms can hear their child's heartbeat for the first time. And that's why it's in our logo. It's on my shirt. Just this idea that, it's true. When a mom hears her child's heartbeat for the first time, she is 80% of the time more likely, or 80% of the time, to choose life for her baby, because it just provides that humanity aspect that there is a heartbeat, living in you, and that's not a clump of cells. It's a living person with a heart beating, and so that's where we get our name, our mission, and purpose. And so we now encourage consumers to help fund ultrasound services through their morning coffee.
I love it, man. I love it. So
Yeah.
when you have a business, there's a lot more that goes on behind the curtain than having an awesome idea and an awesome name. It's like, what did those first 6 months look like? I mean, were y'all like, give me the nuts and bolts on that. Were you into coffee before this? Like, was that a passion of yours as well? Were you big coffee consumers, drinkers, brewers?
I was definitely a big coffee consumer, but I didn't have like industry knowledge or super deep understanding into the whole coffee ecosystem, which I soon have and learned extensively. I've even been to one of our farms we work with now, and I'm happy to touch more on that, how we source some of the best coffee across the world. But yeah, it was from day one, that idea, that genesis, that phone call with my wife. I literally went home that night and just started working on a logo late into the night and just not stopping since that. It was just like an obsession with an idea and like the quickest way I can iterate or create and like take the next step. So within like a few days, I had first iterations of a logo. I had the website domain, and I started just working as fast as I can around the clock, which it's why I feel like I was cut out for entrepreneurship, because anything within business you have to be so obsessed with to like in the beginning, where it's like consuming all your time, energy, and emotions, which is a good thing in the beginning. Eventually you have to figure out how to balance things in your life, but like the obsession when you're starting something is so important to, I think, getting it off the ground. And I had the idea as like September 2nd. By November 4th, you could buy a bag of coffee on 7weekscoffee.com. So just 2.5 months later, I was able to have the website up and running. I had a coffee supplier, and we were shipping. And so it was all very rudimentary. There was a lot of mistakes made. We had a typo on our first labels, which was hilarious. Stuff like that you look back on, which is hilarious. But we had a product that you could buy, and I thought it was the coolest thing, is that people could start buying it right away. And that's really the, I think, key to if any entrepreneurs are listening. What's the key to getting something off the ground, or really validating your product. It's just starting with the most simple version of it, because once you get those quick wins and results, like, hey, we have a website that works, we have a product that we sell and the consumer can consume, it's awesome. You get to immediately get the feedback loop going, and you have something to start with. So that was really fun for me, the early days of just getting it started. And I self-funded it. I put $3,500 in a business account and said, that's it. That's the seed money. No investors. I've never taken a dime, even though we had multiple opportunities to do that throughout the years, and just completely self-funded it and bootstrapped it to today.
I love it, man. We have to go in the weeds on this because we did the same thing with our
Where
business.
You want to go?
Man, we can go lots of different ways. So, like, first, I totally agree with you. You have to be like, a lot of people want to just start a business to make money, and everybody wants to make money. But man, like,
Right.
you have to be super passionate, especially in those early stages, because like you have to put in the long hours. You're gonna hit total roadblocks at all times, and if you're not passionate about what you're building, Like there's no staying power. Like there's no way you're gonna be able
That's
to
a
get
great
through
point.
those hurdles. So like I look at our operation. I mean, my wife and I, we were zero sleep, working 4 other odd end jobs to start things and get momentum going. It's like if I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, it would have been underwater long, long ago. It's just like if you don't have that, then I don't really see it being successful first and foremost. Plus, when you do have it, like every day, no matter how much you work, it's exciting. Like you're excited to
Yeah.
get up and get to work. And I feel like you have to have that in the beginning for sure.
That's why I love entrepreneurship, because like you can create your own trajectory in life. If I think entrepreneurship is something that people need to consider much more, because it's like the only thing in life that can change your family's outcome, your kids' family, your children's children outcome. Like it's an opportunity to create an immense amount of either wealth, impact, all of the above. Um, and so many people don't even think about it as like a career path, and we get stuck in like the routine of like, oh, we just have to work our 9 to 5 under a W-2 and paycheck, which is fine for a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's so many people that are missing out on this other way of life, which is like, yeah, you can create your own business, create your own value, and do something you truly care about, because that's the best part. Like entrepreneurship is like investing in something that means the most to you, which is the most rewarding thing of work, in my opinion. So I agree. Like you have to be so obsessed with your craft and your product or your service, and it makes work easy. You can work 80 hours a week without even thinking.
And what's more is I think it makes the ability to create an impact so much more exponential. Like I was at my men's group last week actually, and they were talking about, how can you do God's work outside of church? So just like in the work around amongst your employees, amongst your coworkers, all that stuff. And there was a lot of guys. I mean, I love every guy there, but there was a couple of them that were like definitely unfulfilled in the work they were doing with their 9 to 5.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like they didn't have the passion for the work they were doing. It was kind of a grind. They did good work, but like, they clock out and that's all she wrote.
Right.
And then they like started talking to me and it's like, man, I encourage all y'all to find what it is that makes you tick, because when you find it, the amount of quality output that you can produce is just so much more amplified. And if we've only got so much time on this earth, the bigger impact you can make for the better, the better. So, like,
Yeah.
we owe it all to ourselves and humanity to make sure that every waking hour that we're here is putting out our best quality work. And you can't do that if you're not in charge of it in some form or fashion, passionate about it, and willing to just do what has to be done.
It's funny as you mentioned that. One of my favorite Bible passages is the parable of the talents. It's the story of the master gives each of his servants or people who work in his household 10 talents, 5 talents, and 2 talents, something like that, or 5, 2, and 1. So he gives them these talents, which, first of all, it was like a large sum of money. Like a talent was like a year's wage. So think, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not, even more. So it was a large sum amount, and even the person who got 1 talent, like this was still a significant amount. And the whole story is the first two invest it, work at it, and double their talents, and they get rewarded for it. And the last person is the only one who does nothing with it. And the master is so upset. Not that it's almost if he was to lose the talent um, at the person who only had one, because he did nothing with it. And it's like this huge reminder of like, we're not just optionally asked to do something with our lives, or to have to quote unquote make an impact. Like, God has given everyone who's got breath in their lungs some type of talent to use, and he calls us to do that. And so it's like this, I think, almost way to see is like a demand upon our lives to use what we've been given for his glory and good. And so if we're not doing that, like, we're going to be the person with like the 1 talent who's ultimately at the end rebuked. And so, a lot of people are always like wondering, what's God's will for my life? What should I do for work, or how do I find something that's meaningful? Well, it's look at what God has gifted you with and just start using those today. It doesn't have to necessarily be immediately tied to your career. It could be tied to something you do, what they say, your 5 to 9, like after work hours. And what do you do then to use your talents for God's good and glory? So all of that is something that we're asked to do. And so I see that like through entrepreneurship easily, because it's a great way to go after something you're super passionate about. And it could be a side hustle to start, but using what we've been given is not just like this optional thing. It's a requirement. And, we need to see it that way. And when more people do, is like how we're going to have a cumulative effect.
Totally agree. And I think when people are working something that they're not called to do and they know it, and they've just got this weight of uncertainty or regret or remorse that just constantly that they're having to carry, like that's pulling people down too, man. Like, whereas I'm sure you're the same way as me, but like I could literally die tomorrow and I would die with a smile on my face knowing that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life right now. When you know that with
Right.
complete confidence, like you have just this peace about you. And like there's sleepless nights, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of chaos, but like there's this weird underlying peace in knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life on this planet.
That's so true. Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, for my whole life, like I said, after I graduated college, I felt like I was starting at zero, not knowing what I
Mhm.
wanted to do, not having any career experience, hating what I majored in, having just like nothing to like show for it. Felt, even though, because I put all my time and energy into golf, which I was really good at, but it didn't pan out the way I thought. It's funny. Um, when you get to that place of really identifying your callings and like living that out on a day-to-day basis, you do have that like piece of like, I'm doing what I should be doing, what I'm called to be doing. And like there's just like a piece that resounds throughout your life, and it's truly impactful. It keeps you on the straight and narrow, and it keeps you focused on what direction you should be heading.
100%.
You don't feel like you're wandering. Like wandering is like one of the worst things to end up in life, where you're just like moving from one thing to the next. And um, yeah, more people that can just feel like what is their passion, what is their calling, and like really press into it. And again, that's why I love entrepreneurship, because it's so easy to like start that right with like on your own. Like you can take the bulls by the horn and like really build what you feel your gifts are into a business, into a career.
Do you still, this is a little bit of a tangent, but do you still golf at all or no?
Yeah, I do. I gave it up for a few years, because the whole thing why I gave it up was I had an injury. I had a neck injury from golf, and so yeah, I didn't play for a few years. But I'm back. I'm back in it again and trying to play competitively to some extent, some amateur events. Actually won a tournament for the first time, the Northern Virginia Amateur recently, which was fun. So I still got that. Still, I will say I still got that passion, but it's just in a different capacity now, where it's not the overwhelming focus of my life like it used to be.
Totally. How does one get a neck injury in golf?
Yeah, like anything, it's funny. Golf is like, oh, hi, you don't get hit. It's not football. It's not, you're not running or sliding or getting tackled. But it's like anything else. It's like a repetitive injury. You're constantly hitting so many balls, and your joints are always like the most vulnerable, right? Because you're twisting, you're turning. There's impact on the ground. So a lot of people get wrist or back, but for some reason my neck gave out and I was in pain for like 3.5 years. 3.5 years just playing in pain. So that definitely wore me down to the point where I had to like just stop and restart life. And it's funny, that was probably one of the most depressing moments, I would say, where it just felt like everything you worked for, everything you put your time, energy in, and almost like anything else, it's so easy to find your identity in what you do and not who you are in Christ. But I easily could have done that, where my identity was in golf and known as, and someone who played college golf, and that was going to be my future and everything, and it all just came to a screeching halt. And because of that is how I ended up in DC. Because of that is how I started 7 Weeks Coffee. So the very pain that I had to go through of pivoting what I thought my life would look like was what ended up turning to something I couldn't be more grateful for. It's just a business I love, and get to do this hopefully for a long time.
Yeah, the gift of adversity, man. I love it. I love it.
Oh
All right,
yeah,
so
that's the best.
I do have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to the podcast, so let's
You
just
do?
kick into
Okay,
some of
cool.
the gears of all this. So when you started, built a website, found the coffee supplier, like how did you set everything up? Were you like on Shopify, or what did you hit the ground running with?
Yeah, Shopify. When I say I knew nothing, I literally mean that. Like I was just like Googling like websites to sell products on, and obviously Shopify comes up. It's like, okay, let's learn Shopify. So I just self-taught myself everything I could possibly learn on Shopify, from how to build a website. I did that myself, writing the copy, creating the products, trying to find a supplier. The first supplier I had some guy in Alaska. I cold called this company and they shipped our coffee from Alaska to begin with. And that was an interesting life lesson there. Luckily, we have a really much better supplier now here in the Virginia area we work with. And it's been that was a big learning experience. But yeah, you just like have to be so like hustle oriented. That's all I can say is like, what's the outcome you need? Just figure out how to get an outcome, which is like, yeah, we need some coffee with like a couple labels on it. We need a website that works and that has a nice experience. And then as over time, you iterate on that. If you looked at our website from day one to where it is now, it's like night and day difference. One looks like it was, built by an eighth grader and one now looks a lot more professional. So, and it was all me just learning this over the last 4 years. And so that's been a great, learning experience. You got to just iterate daily. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I joke. I tell people like if somebody when I started the business, if somebody was like fast forward 5 years and like have a list of all the headaches that I have to figure out and think of on the fly and just handed me that list, I'd be like, to hell with this. This is no fun.
Oh, 100%.
But it's crazy, man. Like you do this, you get hit from left field, you adjust, you pivot, you adapt. But it like makes you so resilient. Like you become supremely confident in your ability to just figure things out. And then once you have that confidence, like anything can come at you and you just figure it out. Like it just happens.
It's funny. Like the only way to see problems are like the inevitable of a solution. Like you have to view it through the lens of, I will figure this out. I will get it fixed. Like there is a solution to everything. Like that's the way you have to view it because it is a constant like feeling of putting out fires, hopefully. And now we're like running much smoother and there's more of an operational flow to things, but there's still things that come up, whether it's daily or weekly. But yeah, from when you're getting started, it's all just figuring things out and being so relentless to find the solution. Like the only thing that matters is what's the solution to get the desired outcome. And if you have that attitude, that's what you need. Like you can't be, you have to really feel like you can push down walls. Because if you don't have that, you'll just get stuck behind, whatever inevitable roadblock and then give up. You have to be so relentless in your mind to say, hey, how am I going to get this figured out today? Like, like today is my favorite word. They say if you have something to do, if you need something done, ask a busy person because they'll get it done today. Because, people who really excel at a high level can just get things done in the immediate. It's like tomorrow is never an option.
Yeah, 100%, man. So when y'all started and launched, how did y'all figure out, how the proceeds would be broken up to go to, the pro-life movement? How'd you figure out what organizations to assist? Like, how did that whole thing shape up?
Yeah, I mean, from where we have now, we have just context. We have a very large partnership program with over 1,000 pro-life groups that receive funding. We're supporting 30 to 40 groups each month, mainly pregnancy resource centers, some adoption and maternity homes. We have a whole system for them to partner with us. But at the beginning, it was literally like, let's just sell coffee this month and donate to our local pregnancy resource center. So we sold $8,000 and I literally walked over a check for $800 to our local pregnancy center and said, this is for you guys because we sold coffee. And they were like shocked and so happy, obviously, for that, support. And, they wanted to learn more. And, quickly, actually, our name got out there. We did a couple pro-life events and everyone just like immediately resonated with it, which is cool. It's kind of funny. Its success is obviously not overnight, but early on, like literally the first event we did, like people were like in love with our mission, our brand. I think someone was tearing up, like, I love this so much. Like, this is the coolest thing. I'm telling everyone. And when you hear enough people say, I'm telling everyone, you got something that's, working. And so it really caught on quick where we had a lot of pro-life organizations, reaching out for support. Cause like we're offering, what's usually not a common thing, which is like, they say there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, we're giving it to you because like, it's literally just a free donation to a pro-life organization. All you have to be is 100% pro-life organization. Have a biblical worldview, and like we will just write you a check. Like that is as simple as it gets. So now we have a whole process how they sign up, and we can just vet them obviously because we want to make sure our funds are only going to those organizations. And then they just enroll in a month to receive funding from us. So we have a whole system now, but from the beginning it was just like, hey, we'll just give money to our one local center, and then we found a couple more in the area, and then we kind of just developed a program around it after it made sense what was happening.
I love it, man. So did y'all have to like set up as a 503c, or did you set up as an LLC and then just decide to donate the 10%?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are a for-profit company. that is just incredibly generous. And I love that. I love that because, nonprofits, they have a lot more rules and regulations around them, for obvious reasons. But I think it's awesome that we're a for-profit. Like the whole idea for us is like to be as impactful as we are, we have to be like profitable. Like it's this like truth, like to have true impact, you have to be self-sustaining. Like we're not taking money, we're self-sustaining. We make money as a business. We give a huge portion of our profits away, but it all maths out in the end. So that's what gives us, like, I think, a huge competitive advantage, and it really allows us to make a long-term impact. So yeah, we're just a for-profit company that's just extremely generous. That's the best way I can say it.
I think that's honestly the best model, because like, you look at capitalism and people, when you're exchanging something for goods, services, product, whatever. And if people are doing that, especially with something as popular as coffee, like it's going to happen by default. And if people are doing something and putting money towards coffee that they believe in the mission for, like you grow, the more firm you are as a business, as a
Right.
functioning, profitable business, the bigger impact you can make.
100%.
And if you're coming at it from a good heart with a place of generosity, like you're gonna be able to make that impact larger as well. So I think that's honestly a way better model than having a 503c set up or simply asking for donations. Like it's just a lot cleaner.
It is, and for me, it's kind of like this idea of like, how does ministry work? And usually, ministry is like, okay, ministry is inside the four walls of the church. It's this idea that like to be a ministry has to be a nonprofit. To have like true impact has to be this idea of like you can't be for business or for profit. And I think it's like the complete opposite. Like, what has a bigger impact on society and culture? For-profit entities, from media, from products, you name it. These are for-profit entities selling a good or service that ultimately have an owner behind it with a certain agenda, right? So take that context and apply it to the Christian worldview. It's like, okay, how as believers can we, actually engage culture? Well, it's like, yeah, create a better product or service that you can be profitable with and actually use that for good. That's going to have a way bigger impact. It's like, why wouldn't we want like the CEO of Amazon to be a, believer or Christian to really make an impact with his business? Like this idea of like, you can't be a wealthy, business owner and actually have an impact. But it's actually the opposite. I see it. It's like, how do you steward the wealth that, God is given you or is blessing you with as a business and use it for good? That's the bigger impact. Again, going back to the parable of the talents, he gave, someone 5 talents, which is a huge sum of money. So this idea that like God definitely blesses those he entrusts, but we have to actually just be faithful what he's blessed us with. It's a two-way street.
How did you all land on the 10% going towards the pro-life movements?
That was a funny part because again, like not knowing anything about like running a business or understanding financials of a business, 10% of every sale just sounded like a good idea, like a tithe. What I realized, 10% of every sale is a massive portion of our profits. It's upwards of like 50% of our profits. So when I first started and I was a few months in, I'm like, oh, wait, no one actually donates 10% of every sale. Like people donate 10% of profits. And so I like panicked. I was like, maybe I should switch this. Like this doesn't make sense. Like no one's doing this. No one in the business world is doing this. Like maybe we should switch. And I remember like specifically like praying about it. I was like, okay, it's working. I'd feel bad switching it, but maybe we have to. But I was like, Lord, if you want me just to keep as is, like I just pray you just make it profitable so I can like, be able to take a salary, pay for my family, for my life, for the things that I need. Like the reality is we all need an income. So I was like, Lord, if you can provide this as an income for me, I will continue to like donate. So I remember like having this, conversation in prayer, and he's done that, ever since. We've been profitable every year, which has been a blessing. And we've continued to donate 10% of every sale. And so it's been awesome. And I don't know how necessarily like it works, except I just would say like, God is in control of it because it's not a common business practice. But do people donate? And just like on a side point, it was funny. I read a book on the Hobby Lobby, the origins, and then the story and the impact of the Hobby Lobby family of what they have. They're a strong Christian family, and in there, I remember reading this passage, and it said like we donate upwards of 50. They donate like 50% of their profit. I'm like, wow, that's like essentially for us what 10% of every sale is. It's like 50% of our profit. So I was like, wow, they're doing it, so why can't we? So that was actually a cool moment where I realized other people do give a lot away. We just started doing it right from the beginning.
It's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. When I'm talking to other entrepreneurs, it's like therapeutic for me because
Yeah.
I can't really relate with the people running the 9 to 5 gig as much.
Hmm.
Like it never turns off. I mean, you freaking go to bed sleeping, thinking about spreadsheets, like just the way it works when you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
So like, what are some of the biggest memorable headaches, obstacles, hurdles, and just like, oh no moments, especially when you were
Oh
starting out?
man, if there, it's like this. When you're starting a business, and so for us, 7 Weeks Coffee, I really knew nothing about like e-commerce and I didn't know much about coffee. And so like you have this general feeling of just like the unknown. And like there's so many decisions coming at you where you just continuously saying, Lord, help me like not screw up. Like that was like a continuous prayer and still is. Like this idea of there's just so many unknowns and you have to make your best guess. And that's an overarching one. But from the beginning, we had, I needed to put more money in, which was a big deal. And we had to put another $10,000. We were just married, and that was a big investment at the time. And um, we had um, we had issues with our first coffee supplier where they tried to essentially rip us off and then compete against us, and that was like a huge backstabbing moment that I knew nothing of and never had like the proper understanding of like, hey, get an agreement, get a contract in place. So that was one of the most painful things we had to walk through. Man, I'm trying to. There's just constant fires you have to put out. I've had people, really amazing people try to be investors and purchase large percentages of the business. And so, I'm 28 now, but this was 2 years ago. Someone just, trying to purchase 40% of the business for a decent size amount of money. That's a very like staggering decision you have to like weigh. So it's things like that, from the good and the bad. You know, Definitely what happened with our supplier was super painful, and I'm happy we're in a much better place now. But um, I've tried, in a general sense, to always grow the business where when we take risks or we take steps, they're not, if they don't work out, it's not catastrophic. And so I've definitely like always had that view of it. Like, make sure you take swings within reason, because yeah, this is like my livelihood. I don't want to put the business on a line with one decision at any point, or at least avoid that as much as I can.
Yeah, it's there's been a few decisions we've made that it's like, man, if this doesn't work out, then I don't know what the outcome is going to be, big picture.
I
And
hear you.
like the pandemic was tough, man. Like we're doing all our production in house, and we have from day one. And we bought like our building in 2020 that had to do a year's worth of renovations before we could use it. So like my biggest purchase was the building, and then
Wow.
we were moving in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, man, I have no idea. But it's like this is just the foreseeable path to growing this further. So that's just rocking. But like moments like that where you're just on the fence and not knowing what the smart decision is, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you get really in tune with your instinct, your heart, prayer, and just doing the best you can on a daily
That's a
basis.
really good point. Like, I definitely rely on a lot of people for advice. And that's like a huge, part of business, is getting other business people around you, getting like a good like feedback loop. So I always have like a really good feedback loop. And that's like one of the biggest things I can recommend. If you want to start a business and you're getting started, or you're kind of in the middle of the, startup phase, like just get feedback loops going. Like, what's free? People's opinion. People love to give their opinion. Like, it's the easiest thing. And so you get the right people, you get really good feedback. And so that was an important part. I had an advisor from the beginning who really helped me through a lot of these major decisions, and that was critical. It's like just having this one key person, and I still have them, that helps with like major decisions. So you're just not stabbing yourself in the back, or affecting making decisions that can have really long term effects on your business. So that's super important, because yeah, a lot, like you said, like a lot of times you're just taking a step out in faith, like I think this is the right direction to go, and you're owning it, but there's really like no way of fully knowing.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Talk to me about like supply chain sourcing, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I love. So, with anything, with what we're doing, it's so easy to say, we're just a pro life coffee company. Here's some coffee, we'll slap a label on it, and you'll buy it because of the mission. That's not what I wanted it to be from the beginning, which I think a lot of people, thought it was. Like, literally my favorite review, and I've probably seen this review, dozens, if not hundreds of times where people are like, I just bought the coffee for the cause. I was surprised that it's the best coffee I ever had. Like literally I've seen that so many times because, my thinking from the beginning is like, okay, people are going to buy it for the first time because of the cause. To have really like true impact, they got to buy it again because they love it. Like we have to be a better product, like on like coffee standard only, not because of the mission. Like just put us up against any other coffee, on its own, we're going to win. And so that obsession for the best quality product is super important. So we work closely with amazing coffee partners where we source all our coffee through direct trade. It means every coffee we sell, we personally know the farmers who grew it through our importer. This is the most ethical way to source coffee. It's not fair trade, it's direct trade. It's the most transparent. It pays up 3 times what fair trade requires. It simply means when we buy coffee, we buy directly from the people who grow it, the hands that touched it. So there's no middleman. Most coffee is not purchased that way. It's purchased through a brokerage. So think just buying something, what the product, you're not knowing exactly who grew it, how the farmers were treated, the quality of it. It's just so much better when you buy direct from farmers. You get to support them and support ethical wages across the world, and you get the most exceptional products. So we have the all direct trade specialty coffee. It's all ranked 85 or plus on Q score, which is the way you score coffee, which means it's like really the top, specialty coffee out there. And then for us, like just keeping it like a super healthy product. So there's no pesticides, there's no mold. We test for that. It's all organically farmed. And we even have 2 that are USDA organic. But all of it being organically farmed is essentially the same thing in terms of quality. So that is where we like separate ourselves on products. So having an amazing partner in our supply chain is I think critical to our success. Like I said, I got to visit one of the farms in the Dominican Republic early this year, and it was amazing just to see the production, the coffee. Like we literally sell that coffee, meet the farmers, see the whole production of it. And you get to see the impact. Like literally, this family that owns the farm has a massive impact in their town from supporting their local nonprofit, the school, the fire department. It's like, yeah, that's an amazing, like uplifting supply chain that also people are helping when they purchase our coffee. So, we're even trying to highlight that more, like pro-abundant life, from the moms at pregnancy care centers to the farmers, across the world. Like we're truly uplifting and supporting life.
That's the key, man. And I respect that you went out there and put boots on the ground, man. Like we use organic cacao butter as one of our primary fat sources. And like I was going to Brazil, meeting farmers, ranchers. Like I'm always trying to source the best one. It's like that's what makes it all come like forefront of your mind. Like people, so many businesses out there like drop ship goods, like slapping a label on it, white labeling. It's like there's no true connection. Like I want to know my farmers, I want to know my ranchers, I want to know sourcing so that I can be confident that we're putting the best thing out there possible. And like it's going back to the people that raised it, grew it, all that good stuff. So
you got to be product, because you have to be. That's what I totally agree. You have to be product obsessed, because what's going to truly differentiate you in the market then? You're just going to be like everyone else, and then you're just competing on who's got better ads. Having a superior product is hard, but it's worth it when you can figure it out, because that's what's going to give you that lifetime value from customers. I mean, I've read probably every single one of our reviews. I mean, thousands and thousands of reviews. I read them all because I'm obsessed with what people think of our coffee. That obsession is what always needs to be there, because that's what keeps yourself to the highest standard, and it honors the customers in the best way, because you're going to provide them with the best quality product. And you know what? Long term, it's going to benefit your business. Like, so many people, I'm sure, I'm saying for your business, like word of mouth, like people say they love a product is the best way to get your next customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking to an entrepreneur friend of mine that kind of was like a mentor to me when I was really starting out. He was like, look, you can either be the first, you can be the cheapest, or you can be the best. And like coffee's been around for a while, so now can be the first. I really want to be the cheapest because it's just a race to the bottom. So it's like, okay, your best option is to be the best. And that's what I've tried to do. It sounds like, well, that's what you're trying to do. And it's hard. Like you just have to have a massive amount of integrity and not cut corners, not sacrifice anything. But if you're the best, I feel like that's honestly an easier model because it just ensures success to some extent.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really fun way to think of it. It's like, we're not as big as Black Rifle Coffee. We're not as big as some of the other coffee companies, but I'll put our coffee against anyone. It's on its own. And I love that, like, mindset is, our product speaks for itself, and that's so important for any business. Like, you have to have a product that speaks for itself. Um, you, Consumers are, they're smart. Everyone is cautious where their dollars go. You
Mm-hmm.
can't trick someone into a purchase. Maybe you can for the first order, but they're not going to come back for the next. So that's why it's so, yeah, it can't be, it's got to be the biggest focus for an entrepreneur, is like quality and product obsession.
Totally agree. What have y'all done from a marketing standpoint that's really worked versus not
Yeah.
worked at all?
Well, it's cool. It's funny. Like, this has not been the biggest thing, but it's funny. Like, like I mentioned, like giving away 10% of every sale is a huge portion of our profits. I thought from the beginning, maybe we shouldn't do that. How's that going to make sense? And what I've realized, all the pregnancy care centers we support, they love, our coffee, and they love telling people about the coffee. They're able to share it with their audience. And when people purchase it, their 10% goes back to their local center. So it's been actually a way we've been able to grow our brand from a grassroots level. So that's been awesome. That was kind of a unique thing for us. And then additionally, we do a lot of typical advertising, Facebook and Google ads, but podcasting too. We've partnered with some great podcast hosts that's helped grow our brand significantly too. But really, that's all part of it. But like the word of mouth, and actually, funny enough, we do a handful of in-person events each year. 7 to 10 events a year that will have a booth. And you might sell a few hundred bags of coffee, but add that up, you just met like a few thousand people,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of a year. You do that over the course of 4 or 5 years. That's a lot of people that you literally just got to meet, share your heart and passion for your product. And it's very like time consuming and tiring, obviously, but you're giving the most valuable impression for your customers, which is like the founder, sharing their heart for their product. And that's, I think, led to a lot of growth too. It's like, hey, let's just go meet people as quickly as possible and tell them about our mission. That's going to get you a lot of new customers.
Yeah, I do love the conferences, man. They are exhausting. Like
They are, man.
You're wiped out afterwards.
I kind of got this like love hate where I'm like, enjoy the pain. Like, you're sitting there and your eyes are like glazed over, but it's like, this is good. Like, we're hustling hard. Like, I gotta go lug this coffee like up the stairs and tear down this booth, and like my back hurts, and we got a flight later. It's like, this is what makes you tough. This is what grows your business. It's like a fun, I don't know, it's fun pain.
What genre of conferences is it? Like coffee specific conferences, or like?
No, it's funny. We mostly go to pro-life conferences and faith-based or conservative conferences, which is fun because, a lot of these conferences, they're like, for example, the other vendors there are not like really selling products. They're more like services, or maybe there's some products, but they're not like physical goods like us, like coffee. So we're like this anomaly in the sense of, what's a coffee company doing here? And but obviously once people hear of it, we perfectly fit in. But it kind of sets us apart too, because like we're the only people there selling like a physical product, which has been fun, I think, to help us stand out.
Man, I got to get you in front of a few of these nutrition conferences, because like everybody
Nice.
at these keto, low carb nutrition conferences, they're all about their coffee, man. Like that is
Nice.
the highlight of their day, and I feel like they would totally buy into your mission, the overall cause.
Coffee's keto, right?
Totally, man. Totally, coffee's
Yeah.
keto. They put some fat in there, some heavy cream, and everybody wins.
There you go. That's important. Yeah, I haven't tried it with I'll do it like half and half sometimes, but usually I just drink my coffee black. But that's a good idea. Heavy cream.
What's your preferred way to make coffee? Like, you an Americano guy, French press? What's the secret?
If pour over, it's the easiest in terms of what produces the best cup of coffee. So you can get like a cheap pour over on Amazon, like I think a Hero or V60 is what it's called. I'm forgetting the name of the brand. For like $40 to get a glass one. It's the best way to make coffee. All you do is for 1 cup, perfect cup of coffee. Here it is. Heat your water up to 200 degrees. You put your pour over, get it set up over your cup. You put 16 grams of coffee in there, and then you pour 320 grams of water. So you just need a scale to weigh it out. Obviously, you got to do it on a scale. But just 16-to-1 ratio, and that makes like one delicious cup of coffee. And it's truly the best way to, I think, enjoy like true quality coffee, because you're going to get the best like flavor and tasting notes out of it. Like, obviously a coffee machine is much easier, but it's still going to taste good, but you're not going to get like the depth of the tasting notes when like a pour over. So that's how I do it every morning.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah.
like my cup of coffee, man. So
There you
I'll
go.
get me a good pour over setup, especially when I'm out camping or something like that. That'd be
Yeah.
perfect. What's next for the business? Like, what's got you excited about the horizon?
I feel like for over the last year, it went from startup phase to like I don't want to use the word institutional, but more like structured. Let's just say structured. Like, how do we build like a more sustainable structure, build more sustainable like team, and like within the different like departments of the company. But a lot of people ask me like, what's next, and um, it's funny. I'm not a big goal setter. I'm more of a process person. Um, and so growth to me is like relative, right? Like, what's the most important thing that we do with our company? It's really three things: continue to provide an excellent product, continue to serve and donate 10% of every sale to pregnancy care centers, and continue to be profitable. Because if we're not that, we can't do the other two. So they're all related. And when I think about growth, I think about all those things. All those three things have to continue to happen as we grow. So when people ask me like, where is it going to go? What is it going to become? I think we're on an upward trajectory. We've grown a ton. I think we have a lot of opportunity to be, if not already, the largest Christian coffee company in the U.S. I think we have a large opportunity to reach thousands of our churches. I don't see why not. We can't be the coffee for churches across the U.S. So yeah, there's so much opportunity. I believe that, but like throughout all that and all the plans and all the visions of where we're going to go, those three things are always going to remain the same because they're so interrelated. We want to make sure we're committed to our quality. We're committed to supporting pro-life pregnancy care centers and being profitable, so we don't have to rely on outside funding. Continue to be self-sustaining. So all that to be said, there's a lot of opportunity, but I always see it with this lens of keep doing the most fundamental things well, and I'm happy with the outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment for sure. I feel like people get these, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and it's
Yeah.
like they lose track of the day to day operations. And like if
Mhm.
that's out of whack, then there's no point in looking 5, 10 years out. Like you have to make sure everything that's in house is as streamlined as possible. How big is y'all's team?
We really have like four main people. That's it, and then a handful of freelancers, contractors, agencies to like put it all together.
Nice.
But yeah,
Very cool,
it's
man.
small. It's fun. You can do a lot of things with a lean team, and
Nimble.
I
I
love
like
that.
it.
Yeah,
You got any kids?
my wife and I just had our first son born July 30th, so we're almost a month and a half in here. So
How's that
um,
going?
it's a lot of work. It's very tiring, but obviously, being a pro life company, it's been surreal. Like living out like what it means to like cherish life. Even when my wife was pregnant, just seeing the ultrasounds and the baby kick, it's like wow, this is amazing. Like life within the womb. Like how could we ever, as a society, like treat this as like an optional, um, choice to live? Like this is a human being, and their life is not optional. So that's been really surreal to like embrace that personally. And now we're a month in, and so it's obviously super tiring. I'm up in the night a lot, but I love it. It's so fun just to hold them, feed them, and just it's funny. I'm just excited to see like where he goes in life, and you're watching him grow like literally day by day, and yeah, it's one of those feelings where it's hard to express, but it definitely changes your perspective for the better. So that's why we definitely need more kids in the world.
Totally agree, man. It definitely changes perspective, especially with the, foundational belief system of your company. You said he was born July what?
30th, yeah.
30th. So my second son was born July 5th. So we've got two of them now wrangling. And it's challenging, man. Like juggling
How do you handle it?
entrepreneurship, dude. Two kids, man, like having one kid was an adjustment. And we waited, like I'm 33, so I wanted to kind of get the business set up before we had the
Hmm.
first, because when we were living in the warehouse for 3 years, I mean, we built the whole thing bootstrapped as well. And it's like, let's get solid before we have our first kid. And
Right.
then we've had the two now. And I'm fortunate to have a position where like my wife can step away from the business operations. She can just focus on being a mom and be with them 100% of the time, which is awesome. And I'm here grinding it out the business. But man, having two kids, it's a juggle, but it's like you gain an appreciation for why you're doing everything that you're doing in the first place, you know? And I feel like
Oh
that
yeah.
is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like the more commitments you have in life, the better the outcome of your life is. So like this idea of like when you're like truly committed to your work, right? Like you're going to be on the straight and narrow. You're going to be focused. You're going to be disciplined because like you're committed to like the success of this. Like same like with kids. Like when you have kids, like you're responsible for and you're committed to them. You're committed to seeing them grow up the way you want them to be strong and healthy, and raise them right. Like you have to be so like sharp personally, and so like all these things like refine us. And so we're it's like funny, like we live in a culture that's so like unrefined and uncommitted. Like we have nothing like we have ownership of anymore. Like everything's a rent culture. Everything is transient. No one has any like deep meaningful connections. No one like prioritizes marriage. No one prioritizes kids. No one prioritizes you know having like roots or like living in a certain place. Like everyone just fluidly moves and owns nothing, and then they have no commitment to anything. So it's like a complete opposite of like what we're called to, which is like build your family, build your community, build your business, or at least build your living. Let me like another way to put it. And all those commitments is what drives like our personal success and like ultimate freedom, in my opinion. It's the opposite.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny, kind of make this full circle from what we are talking about earlier in the very beginning about being passionate and just like having that driving force and sense of purpose within you. It's like when you're doing this, when you're steering the ship, so to speak, there's not really a separation from all the components of your life. There is no work-life balance per se, but you're very sensible to the fact that everything that you are working on, everything that requires your time, it's all symbiotic in nature. Like everything contributes to the whole. And, like I think the business is going to be a great vehicle for me to teach my sons very valuable life lessons. I feel like them seeing this is how they learn integrity, hard work, discipline, dedication. Like
Right.
it all is inclusive. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing in and of itself. Like so many people live and they compartmentalize everything and they just kind of like half-ass everything because
Right.
nothing's tied together. Whereas if everything's symbiotic, everything flows.
So true. It's actually funny you say that because like early on, like going back to like what was it like growing a business, because I started after I got married, because like we were like in a my wife was a nurse, had a stable job, we had some money saved, we didn't have like any personal debt. We had very limited expenses. Like your personal life affects your business life. The decisions you make in your business affect your personal life. And yeah, it's so true. If you don't realize that, or at least have the idea of like, hey, my personal life, my act has got to be together if I'm going to have a successful business. Because you can't like have a completely flippant personal life with all these problems or financial issues and then think you're going to go start a successful business. Like they're so interrelated. And so I can't agree more. Like you have to look at everything as a whole. Like how am I making a decision in my business that ultimately will trickle down and affect my family or future or things like that. So you have to take it all into consideration. And that's truly how you make your best decisions.
100%, man. We got one more question for you. So if somebody listening to this is on the pro-choice side of the aisle,
Right.
what would you say to them? Like if you are sitting down enjoying a cup of coffee together,
If I hand them a cup of 7 Weeks coffee.
yeah, like what's that conversation look like? Like what is your driving force that you would want to relay to them?
Yeah, it's obviously one of the most combative issues in our society. It gets incredibly nasty quick. It always reverts to like their three core talking points. I try to keep it more light and open ended, where I would say like, what do you think kids are a blessing or a curse to our society? Do you think we are at a place where motherhood is embraced or rejected? Are you happy for you know your relationship with your mom, or do you have a relationship that you're thankful for with your mom? Like just bring it back to this idea of that like motherhood is the most important role. Children are a blessing to society, you know. And then you can ask them the simple question of like, what do you think about like when a baby's heartbeat is detected on ultrasound? What does that mean to you? And so I'd keep it like very general into these topics that just like give this overall approach that like, yeah, life is a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with choosing motherhood. And even for us, like, do you think it's okay to support moms who are facing unplanned pregnancy, which is what we do, literally. And those topics, I think, help reframe it to the reality of the situation, which is most moms would not choose abortion if they just had the resources, you know? And so it's like abortion is the ultimate, like, what people feel is like this last resort versus on this first thing that mostly people are inclined to. So I'd kind of focus on that, or like, you know, isn't it better that we have more children to love in this world than less? So stuff like that, I think, is like ways to just ask these questions that provide more of a general view on, like, isn't it good that like humanity's growing and not shrinking? Like, don't we want like a growing like isn't humanity and like bringing people into this world? Can't that be a blessing or something for good? Yeah, I mean, when you think of it like that, like culture of life, culture of death, I think the answer is pretty clear.
Yeah, and I feel like I would assume, like when you were volunteering at that, unplanned pregnancy resource center,
Mm-hmm.
like most of them feel up against a wall from a resource standpoint. Like they just feel like they can't
100%. They
provide.
can't afford this. Yeah,
Yeah, they
that's
can't
exactly the
afford
thought.
this, and you're making a very tangible impact with your donations to the company.
Right.
But it's like if people just felt like they weren't up against a wall,
Right.
I would assume the majority of people wouldn't default to the abortion in the first place.
It's very, yeah, it's sadly the situation where people just feel either alone, they feel their partner wants this, or they don't feel like they have the resources to provide for their child, which obviously are three terrible reasons to end a human life. But they're real reasons that women face. And so that's why, like I said, like, why is a society where humanity's on the line, the growth of our species, the most important and greatest blessing that people always say is their children. Why is that like most critical thing in this world, in our society, like the least funded? Like, I'm all for like taxpayer dollars, going to help moms face unplanned pregnancies. Like, I'm conservative, I'm fiscally conservative, but if we can spend, trillions of dollars on wars in the Middle East, why can't we spend a fraction of that for moms who face unplanned pregnancies, so they can just feel like they have the cushion and resources they need to thrive, like not just get by, but like thrive. Like, let's give money to that. Like, that's a good use of like society's funds. If we're paying taxes anyway, why not at least give something, at least give some support to like literally the growth of our communities.
Yeah, totally. What do you say when people give pushback about the world being overpopulated in and of itself, and that's where a lot of the
Well,
issues.
that's a great question, because actually, if you look at it, the world is underpopulated. Most countries are facing a mass replacement rate issue, like where there's more, like the UK, there's like more deaths than children born. So like there's literally a replacement rate. Like China is falling off the cliff. Russia is like going extinct with like their replacement rate, and the US is following that too. Um, there's literally like a need for more humans, and that's like a terrible way to, in a sense, to only look at it, but it's another fact to put onto it, like, because then the theory would be like, okay, what if we had enough humans, like, therefore, like, we don't need any more? Well, that's not the answer either, but that is a truth. Like, every society is facing a mass decline in population, in replacement rate. And so, like, from a literal standpoint, we need more people to like become and grow up and to like take part in the economy, because everyone's retiring and dying, literally.
Mhm.
There's a book, I forget the name of the end. It's like the end of the world is just the end of the world is just the beginning, but there's a lot of in that book. It's just I think a psychologist or something about a lot of these societies are facing a mass, like, depopulation.
And the US is like, I don't think they've gone net negative yet, but they're like right on the cusp of it. I
They are,
feel like
yeah. I
the
mean,
infertility
Europe
rate.
is like net negative in Europe.
Yeah,
I think that's like the common for all European countries at this point, or if not very close.
it's
We're right there. Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy, because most, yeah. I mean, I think it was most families, 50 years ago, 2 to 3 kids was a very common thing, and now it's like less than 1.4 or something, somewhere
hmm
around there.
yeah.
And that's like very concerning. So yeah, we need more people. Oh, here's another great fact. This is again so sad, but like every newborn, so that's born, that's placed for adoption, there's over 30 families that are like applying to adopt that child right now. So think about that. From like a pure like supply and demand aspect of it, like there literally is 30 to 1, people that are like looking to adopt. There's just not children for them to adopt. So
well, you're solving a lot of those problems right there, man. I mean, you're fighting the good fight through and through, and it's truly awesome what you've been able to build and continue to build. I'm stoked, man. I've truly enjoyed this conversation. I'm gonna be buying me some 7-week coffee after this for sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time, and I really enjoyed it as well.
Where's the website so people can jump on board as well?
Yeah, 7weekscoffee.com, all spelled out.
Awesome. Anton, truly appreciate it, man. If there's everything I can do for you, just let me know, brother.
Thank you, Robert.